Ladies and gentlemen, IEI is honored and delighted to welcome to the podium U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow from the great state of Michigan.
Well, good afternoon. It's great to be with you. And thanks, Tom, very much, and Lisa for all the great work that's being done. And I want to make sure you know the driving force on my team, Aaron Sontag, who's my senior energy counsel. Come on in. He also gets the duty of holding my purse. So this is... So Aaron does all the great work for me. And, you know, I have to also give a shout out. I think two friends of mine aren't here. I'm going to be seeing them later. But Patty Poppy from Consumers Energy, who co-chairs your electric transportation task force. Looking forward to seeing her tomorrow. Our whole delegation will be with her, and we will be talking about our continued ways of working together. And, of course, DTE's Jerry Anderson as your vice chair of EEI's board. I think neither one are here at the moment, but both great friends and great leaders in Michigan. And you will find that I do a lot of bragging about Michigan. So I tell you in advance that that's what I do. And I also want to brag about all of you. I was just handed this. Thank you. What a great ad that is here. You're storming the Hill tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to all of that. It couldn't come at a more critical time. I just came out of our weekly business conference meeting, and as a member of our leadership in the Senate, we were talking again about what we need to do on taxes before the end of the year and what we're talking about with the electric vehicle tax credit and other important policies are right up there as a priority. And we need to keep it there. And one of the things that you learn around here is that if somebody's not loudly speaking, and not once, but over and over and over again, there's just too many other competing forces. So communications and reaching out to people continually is very important. And I have to say that we've had a lot of changes in the past 20 years, that is for sure. The world is moving faster and faster all the time, but we used to be talking about clean energy as a periphery energy policy issue. I mean, we were talking about it, of course, in Michigan, but good idea. Did it make economic sense in terms of moving forward? But thanks to the advances in technology, the green technology isn't just about saving the planet anymore, it's about saving money. It is economically feasible. In fact, it's the right business decision. We're looking at a wholesale shift in how we produce and use energy, as you know, from our power plants to our auto plants and other factories, to our fleets, to our cars, to our homes, and even the appliances in them, which, by the way, we make a lot of those in Michigan, just for the record. So it's really exciting, and I am here because you are involved in companies leading the way, and you are very important to our capacity to be able to go forward. For a long time, utilities had a reputation of being relatively risk averse, and that was a good thing. We want reliable electricity. You know, we want consumers, all of us, to be able to flip on the light switch and expect the lamp to come on. We want reliable power. However, sometimes not taking action in the face of risk is the biggest risk of all. And your members see the risks of what's happening with the climate crisis, just as we all do. You know the numbers, but according to the Department of Energy, 69 power plants were in flooded areas during Hurricane Sandy. 8 nuclear power plants had to shut down entirely or reduce their service during Hurricane Sandy and Irene. You know very well the risks you face with sea level rise. Many power plants built on shorelines for easy access to water. And now we see the challenges. And when they were built, nobody expected the water to rise or hurricanes to become stronger or more frequent. One analysis by McKinsey found that in the 7 states where hurricanes are common, the typical large power utility will face economic damages of $1.7 billion by 2050, which, by the way, is not that far away. $1.7 billion each That's not accumulative. Your companies aren't cutting carbon emissions just because it's the popular thing to do. It is the right thing to do, but you're cutting carbon emissions because you can't afford not to, which is the economic message of today in terms of the sense of urgency around the economy, the economics of business, as well as what is happening to our quality of life. I know that as a group, your members are on a path to be emitting half as much carbon dioxide in 2030 as you were in 2005. That's a good thing. That's great. I mean, we need to be talking about that loudly. You're not following, you're leading on this. And I don't think you actually get enough attention for that. And you know that utilities are pursuing this in a number of ways. And again, I got to brag about Michigan. Consumers Energy, DTE, phasing out coal generation, dramatically increasing renewable sources, investing in EV charging infrastructure. Back in January, I attended a consumers groundbreaking on a new project in Grand Rapids, Michigan called Circuit West, that includes rooftop solar panels, frankly, as far as the eye could see when we were standing and looking, advanced battery storage, and electric vehicle charging stations as well. And again, in my home state, bragging, DTE can power 14,000 homes with its solar arrays, including Lapeer Solar Park, which is one of the largest solar parks east of the Mississippi. So, and I know you have similar stories to tell. Xcel Energy, which provides electricity to our Upper Peninsula. And if you have been in our beautiful Upper Peninsula and you don't like snow, don't go in February. But I love snow, so I mean, I love all 4 seasons. But they were the first major U.S. electric company to set a goal to provide 100% carbon-free electricity to its customers by 2050. And in Alabama Power and partners include Oak Ridge National Lab, built a smart neighborhood, 62 highly efficient homes connected to their own microgrid. More work's going on every day. I could go on and on. North Carolina, Duke Energy, helping add electric buses to Asheville's transit fleet. California, California, Edison is investing in massive storage projects, and on and on. So let's talk about electric vehicles as the next important part of that. Because as you know, carbon emissions aren't just a problem for smokestacks, it's also the tailpipe. And we know that in fact the transportation sector is the largest single source of carbon pollution. So that's why the Driving America Forward Act and related efforts are so critically important. You know, I'm from Michigan, a state where Henry Ford and the automotive assembly line got things started. What people may not know, though, is that more than 100 years ago, Henry Ford and Thomas Edison tried to build an affordable electric car over 100 years ago. They even built several prototypes in Dearborn, Michigan. The challenge, Ford told the New York Times in 1914, has been to build a storage battery of lightweight which would operate for long distances without recharging. I think I've heard that challenge before. and that is a challenge that we are still grappling with. But in the end, the economics were such that at that time, batteries lost and internal combustion won. Now is the time to move forward on that challenge that they started 100 years ago, and that is certainly what we are doing. A lot of things have changed since Henry Ford's day. In 1915, about 100 million people lived in the United States. Now we have nearly 330 million people. In 1915, there were about 2.5 million automobiles on our roads. Today, there are 265 million automobiles on our roads. Times have changed, and our technology, of course, has changed over the years and continues to change. And we are right now at a crossroads, I believe, in that next push as the auto companies are setting goals and laser focused on electric vehicles and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, where there's a lot of work going on as well. And so, and let me go back to 100 years ago, because it wasn't an accident that it ended up the internal combustion engine, because we set federal policy. You know, we hear now from our friends in oil and gas, we shouldn't pick winners and losers. The first tax credit policy 100 years ago was for oil and gas. It was embedded in the tax code. It wasn't part of an extender. It wasn't done for 2 years at a time or 5 years at a time. It was part of our national policy. 100 years ago, we picked a winner and they won. And so for me, the next step is about leveling the playing field at a different time and broadening the opportunities on a variety of options for us, not just one, particularly when we are looking what the cost is for us of continuing the same levels of carbon pollution. So I vote for a cleaner future. For the benefits of electric and hydrogen cars are very clear. We can tackle the single largest source of carbon pollution and the resulting climate crisis. We can improve public health with better air quality, and we can create jobs. We can create jobs. And this is no time to cede global leadership to China, who, by the way, if you haven't looked at the numbers lately, are running on clean energy. They're also doing, they do everything, but they are running forward on clean energy technologies, and including electric vehicles, including the materials, the raw materials it takes to do all of this. And so we are in a race with them. And as a state that creates a lot of jobs from clean energy and from all kinds of automobiles, including electric vehicles now, I want to make sure that we continue to win that race with them on clean energy technology. So now we have the Driving America Forward Act. And as you know, this is bipartisan. I'm so pleased to have Senator Lamar Alexander as my lead Republican. We both sit on the Energy Committee. It's wonderful to have a bipartisan effort. Of course, my other senator in Michigan, Senator Peters, is joining us, and in the House, Representative Dan Kildee, who's on the Ways and Means Committee, is leading that effort as well. And we need more bipartisan co-sponsors, by the way. As you're having meetings, please ask people to co-sponsor the bill, to be able to help us move this forward by lending their name as well. And I know that you know about the bill, but let me just say that as co-chair of the Energy Task Force on the Finance Committee, I co-chaired that with Senator John Thune, which was the energy provisions that are part of what we call the tax extenders bill. We included a recommendation to include this. This is a different kind of tax extender. It's not that there is a date that ran out. It's a cap on the number of vehicles, but it is an extender. It is part of extending our tax policy. And so when we look at the fact that up to the first 200,000 units or vehicles can receive a $7,500 tax credit, right now we've got companies at that level or getting very close to it. And so we've structured it to continue the $7,500 credit for the first 200,000 vehicles, but then added what I think could very well be the only extension that we need, quite honestly, if the marketplace works as it should, but to add an additional option of up to 400,000 vehicles per manufacturer who would be eligible for a $7,000 credit. So it goes down slightly just to pay for having more units, sort of in working that out in negotiations with all the companies and so on. But if this is done right, along with charging infrastructure, along with everything else that needs to be done, hopefully that gets things moving in a way that will allow that to be the only extension that we need to do. We also extend the hydrogen fuel cell tax credit for 10 years, as you know. So this is very important, and you have a very key role in how we move forward. And not only what you're doing now, but the role that you play in making sure the marketplace responds. The good news is that the demand for electric vehicles is increasing, but let's face it, it's a small part of the market right now. I mean, the good news is that EVs increased by more than 80% in sales in 2018, but again, very small base. The big question people ask is, how do I charge it? How far can I go and how do I charge it? Which is why I'm looking at all of you, because and why you are so important to this whole process. Building the charging infrastructure needed is incredibly important. Today, there's about 1 million EVs on our roadways. That number is projected to increase to nearly 19 million. 19 million in 10 years, 2030. So from 1 to 19. To support the expansion, nearly 10 million charging ports are going to be needed. 10 million to be able to accommodate this. Now, we're moving on a number of fronts. The Senate Environment and Public Works Committee just reported out what we dub as the highway bill that has some positive things in it. And one is it includes a $1 billion grant program for states and local governments to build hydrogen, electric, and natural gas fueling infrastructure along highways. And so this is an important part of that bill, came out on a strong bipartisan vote, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to move that forward as part of it. And that creates a way as well for you to partner with local units of government and states and so on. I have to tell you that as somebody who was trying to figure out how to drive a great new Chevy Bolt made in Lake Orion, Michigan, that gets 230 miles of charge to DC from Michigan, I couldn't do it in a day last year. I was trying to do that in December. I couldn't do it now. I will say, I actually know now where Pennsylvania Turnpike now has charging stations. I actually went online, Ohio Turnpike, Pennsylvania Turnpike, trying to figure out Pennsylvania. Ohio was talking about it. I don't know if they're there yet, but they were talking about doing it. But I couldn't figure out how to do that in a day. So, which my goal is to make sure in another year I can figure out how to do that and be able to drive in a day. Now, the other challenge is how fast the charge is. Because, a fast charge for most of the company, I mean, Tesla has their own proprietary charging. By the way, if anybody's here from Tesla, help America share that technology. I would just say we need that because they can charge in about 45 minutes, I think 80%, but the other technology out there is about 3 hours to get to an 80% charge. And so that is a huge part of this. And very important, again, when we talk about infrastructure, what is infrastructure in the world that we live in today when we talk about a highway bill? This is very, very important. And again, our pro-gasoline friends say they don't like that in this bill, actually. They're trying to get it out. They say, again, we're picking winners and losers. But we've publicly funded roads on which their vehicles have driven for 100 years. We have all kinds of infrastructure that relates to all kinds of transportation. This is no different in my mind. But we will have a fight on this provision in the highway bill about whether or not we put dollars in there to actually help support and incentivize local charging infrastructure. From my standpoint, we're just leveling the playing field and giving equal opportunity to competing technologies. That should be what we're doing. We should not be picking winners and losers. We should be creating the opportunity for customers to be picking what they want and making technology available in a way so they can do that. I will also mention that we're seeing great strides actually in EV technology. The median electric car range has increased from 73 miles in 2011 to 125 miles in 2018. And as I said, the Chevy Bolt made in Lake Orion, Michigan gets 230 miles to a charge, and it's a great car. So battery prices have fallen. The battery itself, about 80% since 2010. A 2018 University of Michigan study found that EVs cost less than half to operate. So if we've got charging stations, and if we've got if people feel comfortable, they actually get in the car and they realize, oh my gosh, I'm spending less. And I am actually going to be able to save money by doing this. So it's a cycle. The more EVs the more the price, we can support the price with the tax credit, the more people buy it, the more the price goes down, the more we have infrastructure and people feel comfortable, the more they will buy. This is the cycle. And we're right at the edge, but we're not all in yet, which is what Driving America Forward is all about. Let's put us all in. Your role is so critical. Let's put us all in here to say that we are actually really going to do this. And so I also want to give a shout out. Just last week, Rivian, an automaker headquartered in Plymouth, Michigan, got an order to build 100,000 electric delivery trucks from Amazon. We have all kinds of options around trucks. U.S. Postal Service is looking to award a multi-billion-dollar contract for electric mail delivery trucks. All of this, again, will feed on itself. The battery technology, price goes down in the battery. All of this, we're right at the beginning of it. And of course, our big three automakers are all in on electric as well. Let me just say, and I could go on all of them and give commercials, but just tell them I did, because I'm getting the high sign here that we're going to start voting in a minute. So I can't go through my whole list on the great things GM and Ford and Fiat Chrysler are doing, but they are doing great things. But let me just say, the hard part is this moment, is making this a priority. This, we're at this pivotal point right now where the folks who don't want new electric vehicles to be popular and purchased and used and so on, they know what this moment is. They know what it is right now. So we have to know what it is right now and understand this is very important. We can get this done. We can move forward. And as I said before, your leadership is critical. It is absolutely critical to getting this done and to addressing a whole range of things that we need to do, all of which are good for our businesses, our quality of life, and our capacity, I think, to move forward and have a clean energy future. Henry Ford once said this: "What's right about America is that although we have a mess of problems, we have great capacity, intellect, and resources to do something about it." That's the moment we are in. This is all about will. It's not that we don't know what to do. It's not that we can't do it. In America, we can do anything we want to do. It's about having the political will and the leadership to be able to step up and get it done. I want to thank you for being a very important part of that. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.